I was doing some reviews with these different types of ammunition, and I started wondering what's going on inside of these. So I thought maybe we'd try a quick video to see, just in case you hadn't caught the others that we were doing. We've got some Winchester over here, and that's 165 grain full metal jacket, so it's just a semi-truncated or a truncated bullet, lead, copper washed. We've got some HydroShocks here, which unfortunately I don't know, they're not packaged, so I don't know what the size of the grain is there. We've got some Remington, and this is also 165 grain, just sort of a generic hollow point. Next we've got a Federal, again sort of a no frills hollow point, good practice ammo, 155 grain. Next to it we go up to the Winchester Ranger, the Talon, 180 grain, and then the Gold Dot from Spear, and that's 165 grain as well. Then just to compare it, we've got these 40 caliber shot shells, which they say have about 100 BBs in there. So figured we might dissect a couple of rounds here and see what people think of this kind of video. The way I'm going to do it is using my impact hammer or my kinetic hammer, and pretty handy little gadget. You use them when you're reloading if, for example, you want to test a round or you've screwed something up and you need to pull one apart or a couple apart. If you're curious about something, or like this, if you're just doing some research. So you take one bullet, and of course if you just stuck it in here it would fall in, so this little metal thing sort of clips on, and that's going to hold the back here, and there's nothing touching the primer, of course. And you've got this plastic hammer, no sparks or anything again, and what it's going to do is just compress on those little O-rings, again nothing touching that primer, and I'm going to smack it on something a little stronger than these Glock magazines. And I don't know how many smacks that took, but of course, you know, laws of motion. Once an object's in motion, so the hammer's in motion, it hits the ground, the hammer and there's the case stop their forward momentum. However, the bullet continues forward, and it takes a few hits for it to slowly creep out of that shell. So then you just unscrew it. You've got the now empty but still primered case here, and so it's unfired. Still got a primer, you still got a head stamp, and you can see in there, you know, you've got your primer socket and everything. So what we can do is put that there. Now what we've got in the hammer now is both the powder and the bullet, and just by kind of shaking here, I can pretty much, I should be able to get the bullet out of there without the powder coming along for the ride, but I guess if it comes along, what am I going to do? And what I think I'd like to do is get that bullet out first, and then pour the powder into this section. And I kind of just got the idea as I was playing around with these shot shells. So now I've poured the powder out, and I don't even know, I was watching the stuff, not the camera, so I don't know if I got it all on camera. And now I've got the powder here, and I decided to do it in the larger one just because it's going to be a little easier to pour. And then I've got the round right here, and I'll just set that in the center. So even though they're not in the right order, there's your case, your bullet, and your powder. In fact, that seems weird to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and take my time and put the powder into this center one. And this gives us the case, and then the powder, and then the bullet over here, and it gives us enough room to kind of look around. So I'm going to dig into the rest of these rounds. Now I'm not going to weigh this. You know, I'm not a reloading channel. Check out AmmoSmith. He has a great channel if you're interested in the more than this about the rounds. But I did think it would be interesting to kind of rip into at least a couple of them here, so let's do that. I think next I got to go to Black Talon. It's got to be one of the coolest bullets out there. So go through the same process. Get that in there, everything's happy. Screw this down. just snug. Make sure there's nothing hitting that primer. I just go to the concrete floor here. I didn't count again, but however many round or smacks that takes. Then again, we've got our case. Pushes right through. And then, of course, I had to just think about it for a moment or two, but I'm going to go ahead and just pour it onto this business card here. Makes it a lot easier. And then we got that cool black Talon bullet that we can put here, and then we'll just use the business card here to pour that powder right into that center one. And already we can see there's a difference. This is a flake powder, and that's a very, very fine rod type of powder. So next up, let's try the HydroShock. Sounds good. And now that I'm remembering how to use this thing, it's a lot faster if you just push it up through the bottom there. Again, make sure everything's happy. Screw this on. And I think there is another type of these, but I got this for like $10 at a gun show. Okay, that time I remembered to count. That was 6. Anyway, I got this hammer for like $10 at a gun show, and even though there's newer, fancier ones, this is the kind I grew up with, so I'm happy with it. And again, we can just push it straight through. We'll drop that into the next one there. We'll use our business card trick again. I'm noticing a difference in the quantity of powder as well. And again, I don't know enough about this stuff. I don't claim to be an expert on reloading or anything. You may want to check out again something like Ammo Smith's channel, or I think Hickok 45 did some stuff on reloading recently, and they'll probably know more about the different powders here, but it sure is interesting just sort of seeing the different shapes. That's what I figured. Might be interesting seeing the different shapes of bullets and stuff. Okay, so let's do a gold dot. And again, this is the round that I carry for my CCW pistol. Make sure everything's good there. Wow, did that take 18 hits, or am I crazy? So that was definitely in there. I don't think we're going to see too much variety in the size or shape of those cases, only because that's sort of a necessary, proportion to the firearm. Where I think we're going to see the most difference is in the construction and whatnot. Now this I'm noticing, I doubt that's magnetic. I'm guessing that's some kind of goo or something that's holding this bullet's really sticky in my hand. I'm going to drop it down, and then it seemed like a lot less powder, but maybe that's just me. But definitely stuck to the back of that bullet for some reason. Maybe they glue it into place, that's why it was so hard to get it out. So now we've got the Winchester, then we went to Black Talon, and then we went to HydroShock, and then Gold Dot. So I guess we'll need to pick either Remington or Federal, or let's just jump right to a shot shell. Now, I don't think momentum's going to work on this, so instead I'm just going to pick at it with a knife. I can definitely see some shot inside of this one. Let's see if it'll pour out yet. Yep, just barely starting to pour out. Let me cram this Glock tool in here a little bit more. Try to pick out some more of this. Oh, here we go. Here's the plastic plug that kept them all in there. I had to sort of cut through the top of it Then once I mashed through it, I was able to use this little Glock tool to pry it out. And now let's see how many of these things pour out of here. Yeah, there definitely could be 100 of them in there. What's it looking like in there now? It looks like there's like a small plastic wad in there. So we'll see if we can't pry that out of there and see how much powder's going on in there. Can't tell if it's moving or not. I don't think so. This seems a little tougher to get out of there, and I don't really want to stick a sharp point in there and risk hitting that primer. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. We definitely have the case apart, which is we knew was going to be different because it's a shot shell, and definitely some different projectiles there. So let's take a closer look. Alright, so again, thanks to our kinetic hammer here, we've busted into a couple of different types of ammo, and we can now take a look sort of at a down angle here at what we're able to discover. So we've got a couple of different hollow points, obviously the shot shell there, and those hollow points, if we bring them back like this, you can see that they're each a different height, and that just has to do with how far they sit into their case. Of course, like I say, the cases are, need to be consistent, so they're pretty much exactly the same shapes. But you can see they're made out of different materials, they're different thicknesses. I suspect if we were to flip them up this way, we might see some variance, but really not too much. Again, I'm not a reloading expert. So moving up to the powder there, definitely look like we got some differences. This stuff on the right, which was the Winchester, what was this, Winchester target ammo. I use gravity to my advantage here. Alright, so now we can see these bullets from a little different angle as we look at the powders. So like I mentioned, this first one seems to me like a disc or little plates, not ball and not rod. This next stuff definitely seems like tiny little rods, or perhaps ball, but I think of it as, it looks to me like my first impression was little tiny rods. This next stuff is not so shiny. It's real dull, and it looks like powder again, like little flakes like this first one. And then this last one is sort of a mix of some of the others, a lighter flake. And I don't know if you can tell in the video, but it seems to me like this one has the most quantity. This one's maybe second and third, and then this one light powder compared to these others. And that would make sense because it's target training ammo, not so much recoil. Now we can take a look at the projectiles. We've got our Gold Dot, which has the bonded copper to lead inside. We've got the Hydra-Shok, which has that little center post, and that's supposed to designed to do all kinds of wicked stuff. We've got the Black Talon, which of course is magical and can go through armor. And then we've got just typical ammo, which just has a different shape. It's designed to cut a nice hole through paper, just like a paper punch might. So its shape is designed to give you good feedback when you're shooting at paper targets that might be quite a ways out. And again, there's some definite difference here in the size and the weight. We're looking at a 80 grain bullet here. We're looking at 165 grain here. Unknown here, and then this was my 165 grain Gold Dot. This stuff is 100 pellets, and we're just looking at very small drop shot. Pretty neat stuff. Another aspect that these bullets have that these happen to just each be different, but this one you can see has the copper outside and the lead inside. Same thing's going on here with the Black Talon. Of course, a little bit different proportion. Now this Hydra-Shok, again, designed a little differently, designed to work differently on impact, and it's got just a solid copper back. And then again, a little differently again, the Gold Dot, again designed to work a little differently, has not just a solid copper back, but also sort of a concave shape, which is maybe a little tough to see with all this powder stuff stuck to it. But where this is plain flat, this has a cup shape. And again, it has to do, I'm sure, with some sort of performance enhancement or accuracy or something. But again, another aspect of the bullets that, again, we're barely touching the surface here. Projectiles, you know, if you take a look at any catalog, there's a ton of those out there. So give us feedback. Maybe we'll do this with 9mm or something else in the future.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.